Hi, Dad.
Oh, we're live.
We are live.
Did we
That's
have a
what
countdown?
that I saw a countdown. You didn't see the countdown?
I missed it. Well, I was kind of daydreaming.
Of course, we won't truly know that we're live till we get our first
First
comment from a
person.
viewer. Yes. So if you're out there, if you're viewing, please say hi so we know you're there.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Hey,
there
Nick,
we go.
glad to join you.
Nick
Newman, Georgia.
Garrison from Newman, Georgia. Hi, Nick. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, howdy, boys. Wow.
And Amy.
Hey, howdy, girl.
Yeah.
Hello. Catherine, you are live. That's good. Hello.
Yep. It's good to know. Ooh, what a nice little thumbnail you have, Catherine.
What's that?
Starry Night.
Oh, yeah, I can't see it. Oh, Catherine. Yeah, I was looking at Bill's and I thought,
Well, I switched it.
to
I
be
switched it.
honest, I don't see a starry night, Bill. I don't know what it is.
They are very
Oh,
tiny.
yeah. Okay.
Oh, we've got
You
two
see.
people from British Columbia joining us. Annette, Irene, and hi from Hong Kong.
Hi there,
Oh, they're
Kerry.
rolling in now. They're rolling in. How are you doing today, Dad?
I'm doing well. I had a bit of a sleep in till 7 a.m.
Uh-huh.
because Gina's home and she was there for the puppies wake up, except she had to wake up. Well, the adult dog was still asleep, too. The puppy was sitting up quietly in her condo
Mm-hmm.
crate.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty cool now. I gotta tell you, last few days I was so tired. I'm not a morning person. And the cat, first morning, wakes me up at 4:45. So I solved that problem by giving her her breakfast, not giving it to her, but putting her breakfast in a bowl while she was sound asleep in the training room with the boys at midnight. So when she
Okay.
woke up in the morning, she had breakfast because that's why she wakes us, right?
Right.
So
Okay. So you had left her breakfast out waiting for her.
I did, and
Huh.
she let me sleep the other few days. She did actually come
Right.
up once and meow, and I just went, "Tss," and she walked away. And
Huh.
then when I was awake, she knows now that I'm not to be communicated with until I'm standing and my brain is functioning.
All right. So the
Well,
cat
they
is training
see.
you.
The
Says Nick.
cat's really a he, but we have this thing for some reason we refer to the cat as she and the dog as he.
I think that's just a weird cultural thing that people have.
Yeah, it's
People default to cats being
well, it
females.
could be the animals cross-dressing as well. That's kind of confusing, you know. You see the little kitty wearing his pink bows.
All right. Well, we should probably move along to our topic of the day.
Right, let's do it. Let's go for it.
Today we're going to be talking about super solid stays. And as usual, today's webinar is brought to you by us, Dunbar Academy, and the Top Dog Academy. Anyone out there a Top Dog Academy member? Any of our viewers?
A quick thank
If
you.
so,
It's for
give
our
us a thumbs up
sponsors.
or something
Yeah.
in the comments. Let us know you're out there.
You're
Top Dog
relentless,
Academy makes it
Jamie.
all
You're
possible.
absolutely relentless.
No, I relent very quickly, but I think it's good to put the plug in at the beginning, let people know if they want to learn more. Yeah, all right, we got a couple
Well done,
of
Cindy.
our subscribers out there.
Jean, all right. I love it.
Awesome. All right, so
Rolling
if you do
some
want to join the
balls.
Top Dog Academy, you actually can do so for free with a free trial using the link I'm putting up on the screen now, and you'll get access basically to a digitized version of Ian's brain, including all sorts of seminars, workshops, training videos,
Courtesy
and
of Jamie.
all of these webinars
Yeah.
too. Yeah. So yes,
I'm so
today.
glad I did that, because I just haven't got the strength to give a 6-day seminar again. That was my maximum, 6 days in a row. It was actually called the first 6-day dog behavior and training seminar. And on the 4th day, I rechristened it as the first and last, having done 4 days with 2 more to go.
Uh-huh.
I loved doing it then, but it was tiring. But it's all recorded. That's what's so wonderful. Hundreds of hours of me talking away, or more
Yeah.
excitedly giving workshops, because that I love, you know?
Yeah. So I think Amy here is talking about the wisdom of putting in our plug at the beginning so people know to join us. Dad, Jamie is wise. And Jewel says she's enjoying her Dunbar Academy purchase. Okay, that's enough of that. I will relent, as you say, and we'll get on to talking about today. So, super solid stays. Do you have any? I believe you've got a story in mind that kind of illustrates maybe.
Yeah, I thought of why I wanted to tell it yesterday. I can't remember now. But it was when you were asleep, Omaha and I would venture to the dark streets of Oakland. And
This
we
is
would,
when I was little.
when
Yes.
you were little, yeah. Yeah, this would be 80, oh, yeah, 83, 84. You were very little. I mean,
Yes.
you weren't here for bits of 83. So when you were sound asleep, we'd go out, not normally about midnight, but one night we went out quite late, and we'd do some healing. And there's a hole in the fence at Bushrod Park because it was all locked up back then, but they'd cut a hole in the fence. I'd do a lot of healing, off-leash stuff, recalls. Then I'd practice stays on a blind ending street. You know, all the streets near where you live, and they have those bollards placed diagonally, so you can only turn left on the street, you can't turn right, and same coming in the other direction. Anyway, I would position Omaha between these bollards and a sit stay in front of me, and then I would back off down the street and very close to the cars, and all of a sudden I would just nip between 2 cars. I was out of sight. And then I would, like G.I. Joe, up the street out of sight of him till I got behind him. Then I'd come out about 30 yards behind him. And I was doing this one day, and his sit stay now was up to about 20, 30 minutes. And I slowly walked up to him really quietly, and I got where I was standing directly behind him. And I just said, Omaha? And he goes, and looks up without moving. And, because they have a partially, double jointed neck, Malamutes. Like, what is it? The puffin dog. You can take his nose and put at the root of his tail. It's totally double jointed, the neck. So Malamute can look behind him without doing the usual, and then that sort of routine. But he didn't break his stay, and I was so proud of him. So it was just a little fond memory. And he really, I wish I had more videos of his stays because they were uncanny. When people used to come to the house, and we had a lot of trainers come, to watch the puppy classes, which started in 82. And so if they came from abroad, Mimi and I would have them stay, and they'd go to the puppy classes, and we'd cook meals in the evening. And when I fed Omaha, I would do one or two things. I would let him feed, and he'd eat from his bowl, and I'd ask the visiting trainer, see if you can distract him. And there's nothing. And one trainer, I remember, he got on his back behind Omaha and went through his back legs, then through his front legs, and looked up at Omaha and put his head in the bowl. It didn't faze him at all. He just pushed his head aside and continued eating. And then I'd put Omaha on a sit stay, say, right, break him from his sit stay. And he was just unbreakable. It didn't matter what you did because he had been through it all. He'd seen everything. The loose,
Because you had proofed him with everything you could imagine.
everything you can imagine. And you'll see, like when we see the video today, I think it's Wookie, isn't it? Right? You'll see me make a couple of handler errors. And one was I give her a food treat, but I'm kind of fumbly and she drops it, or rather, I dropped it. And so she immediately goes down for it and breaks a stay without thinking. And I thought, God, Omaha wouldn't have done that because I'd proved it. But I obviously hadn't proved it with Wookie yet because we're quite at an early stage of training. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was that.
So what was your rationale? Why did you decide you wanted to, teach such a solid sit stay for, 20 or 30 minutes?
Well, it's a line of thought that when you are, you know, classically conditioning a dog, to do it in motion is very difficult. It's much easier to do with the dog, say, settled down. So you're not moving through the environment. And so, and a lot of the old way of training, you remember the old on leash stuff when they always used to heel their dog past another dog, which I thought was a really dumb thing to do because if anything will break a nice healing pattern, it's always healing them past other dogs because they're getting excited, if you know what I mean. And so it's a bad thing to do. And so I thought, well, the best thing to do if your dog is excited or upset or scared is put him in a downstay, because then it's kind of like drilling people in the military. You do it, so you're telling them what to do. And because it's easy to follow an instruction like halt, quick, march, left, turn, you do it without thinking, and it gives you confidence to deal with a very scary situation. So I wanted a really solid downstay, but because for a lot of dogs, they don't actually learn to downstay, they learn to settle down, as in like Kelly's, settle down series. And so they get
Oh,
relaxed, and that's cool. For me, if you're settled down, like the puppy here is settled down, well, she can roll over. What she mustn't do is, and she can sit up if she wants, but what she mustn't do is make noise unless it's a cue to me she desperately needs to pee or poop or something like that. And that I usually know if she does it twice, it's urgent. So to get bang for your training buck, to get a very long settle down, you want to concentrate on teaching sit stays, which are less stable, but they do have their advantages. If you stand up, the dog lifts his head up, and that forces the butt down, and to teach stand stays, the most unstable of stays. So you'll see this with Wookie. I mean, she had something like a 15 to 20-minute stand stay when she was quite young, because that's what she had to have for a work. So if you've got a 20-minute stand stay, well, a 2-hour settle down would just be a piece of cake. So I kind of thought it through from what people did the old way. Well, how would I help Omaha deal with anything that upsets him or frightens him? And he went through a lot. I mean, I bet a lot of dogs have not met with 100 charging Japanese schoolgirls in San Francisco. And he just remained in his sit stay the whole time. And everyone had to come up, pet him, and then kneel down beside him, hug his face, and get their photo taken, good, great, and move on. And we had 100 of them. And he just sat there the whole time. Well, I was actually scared when they came running up screaming, because what had happened was is he was under the table and he sat up and banged the top of the metal table, and my beer toppled, and I grabbed it and screamed, And so he gets up and goes, "Whoa, like what's going on?" And these school children are over there and they go, "What's that?" All the teachers are corralling them. And so I said, "Oh, it's just to go, stand, speak, woo, 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 shush, speak, woo, 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 shush." So they know it wasn't a growl, it was just a what the hell happened, verbalization. So then they all went, "Wolf, wolf," and came running up when they realized he was friendly and they wanted their photos taken. But anyway, that was the rationale. Why?
right. And I mean, I think that's a particularly good example of how a solid sit stay can be very valuable in terms of quality of life and letting your dog be out in the world without, being in danger or scaring other people and, being able to be under control.
Yeah, if we look at the building blocks as training, as I call them, I should have drawn this out, and we could have had a fancy, multimedia presentation. And Jane was thinking, "Oh, Dad, you really are pathetic." I would have
We
done.
do, we do have a fancy multimedia presentation.
Yes, I know
We have
we
a
do.
video ready.
So before you can do anything with a dog, it has to have a rock solid temperament. Any training you build on a shaky temperament will just crash and burn when something weird happens. And that could be a single squirrel, a boy on a skateboard, 100 running and screaming Japanese children. And then all your training doesn't work. So first you've got to have this solid temperament. And that's what we haven't got these days with most dogs, because I'm seeing dogs now coming into class scared of other dogs, scared of typical COVID dogs, scared of people, scared of their own shadow. All needless, because we had a webinar for COVID safe and parvo safe puppy training precautions. You can train you can socialize your puppies safely, and I think we're going to do that next week, aren't we? We're going to redo
Yes.
that again because it's still happening. So dogs aren't getting socialized, so these cracks showing their foundation. So all this training you put on it, like I remember once at Cow Palace, I was competing with Omaha in obedience. There was a gorgeous shepherd there. And I saw him get out of the car, and he was so cool with his obedience. He sat instantly, healed beautifully. He came into the arena, and it's an indoor show. It's very spooky, and he flattened. And they couldn't get him to move. All that beautiful training just went poof, disappeared. So what owners want, they must have this solid foundation, but they don't get that because the pup is fine, they think. Yeah, because they only see him at home with their dog. They don't realize this puppy is absolutely unsocialized with other dogs and other people until we get this adult onset, fear start developing. So you need the solid foundation. On that, you've got to put the 3 positions: sit, down, and stand. And the best way we train those to get into the stays is we randomize sit, down, and stand. Well, with 3 positions, you've got 6 very different position changes from one to the other. So we did this with Wookie the day before, and his position change commands were really very good. They were all over 80%, and a lot of them were in the 90s, which is exceptional. But that was when he was concentrating, like, oh, I'm doing a test now. I'll look at the owner and see what they asked for, and I'll do it straight away. Of course, then I may get a treat at the end, It was very difficult when I was teaching the stands, and you see him get distracted on a number of occasions. And once I think I had to say sit 3 times in a row before he sat. So we got to get the position changes. Then you need rock solid stays. There's only one more thing to put on top of that, which is the centripetal attraction. Then you've got a trained dog. This is what everyone wants. They want a dog that will come close quickly, stay close, follow them, instantly sit or lie down. They very seldom use stand, and then remain there for a lengthy time. And that's a dog you can live with. So like I'm back to working now because little old Sam here has a really quick sit, pretty quick down, but a rock solid settle down for the last time she did it yesterday for me, 2 hours. So I've got the pee breaks up to 2 hours if I want, obviously only in the middle of the day. At nighttime, she now does 8 hours, and she's not even 10 weeks old yet. Yeah, she's 9.5 weeks. And so that is a very livable dog. And now for me, the puppy drama has lifted, and I can do what I normally do, which is right in front of my computer with a dog next to me that I do periodically. And my alarms are set at hourly intervals to changing to 90 minutes, then 2 hours in the middle of the day, and then back to 90 minutes, and then an hour. And then we have the active times from 6 to 9 in the morning and from 6 to 8 in the evening. So she's really on an adult dog's cycle now, which is cool. So the stays make a dog so livable, and they make life easier for the dog, like in the vet clinic. Like Dune was the best we had. I would say, hop, and he would spring onto the exam table, and I would say, stand, and he would remain standing. And once he had his cornea scraped. with no one holding him. Because the vet tech, they said, hold him. Well, as soon as you hold Dune, he would just lean into you. And she couldn't hold him. He's nearly 100 pounds. He's a big dog. So I said, trust
That's
me,
positive
he will
thigmotaxis
not
for you.
move. So here he's doing a stand stay on the table, not moving, while they're scraping the ulcer on his cornea with a scalpel blade. I mean, that is painful. But that to me is like an ultra solid stay. And when you do it bit by bit, the dogs get it. And when you see the distractions with Wookie, I mean, this is the second session I've done with her. And I don't care what's going on. There's all sorts of stuff happens, But this is what training to me is about. We just do it and we continue doing it.
All right. We've talked a little bit about Wookie. Should we show that video
Yeah.
now?
So that is, we don't know whether I can hear it yet, and we don't know whether I can talk over it, but I will kill my sound with headphones. So yeah, roll Wookie. So
All right,
Wookie
so
is it's less than 2 years old. I don't know how old Wookie is, probably about 18 months at this stage. And what she must have for service is a literally unbreakable downstay. She's being trained to be a mobility dog, and her function, right when she's placed, will be to walk from the car to the school classroom, settle down for 1 hour. Every hour, change classroom. So she has periods when she can settle down, but then short periods where she must provide absolute obedience and support. So what she clearly needs to know is when she's on duty or off duty. Well, I extended the period and essentially put her on duty for about an hour. You're seeing clips for a training session that was an hour long, and I let her relax about 2 or 3 times within it and said, Wookie, free dog. So, all right, let's see if I can see it. Otherwise, I'll have to
All right,
visualize
so
it.
this video clip of Ian training Wookie is about 13 minutes long, and you'll see him working on stays. So let's put it up in the feed. I'm going to hide myself and hide you and play the video.
All right. So we'll randomize the 3 positions and we'll get some nice stays there. Come here, Whoops. Wookie, come. Wookie, sit. Good dog. Good dog. There's a good dog. Very good dog. Yes. Extremely good. Well, I'm cold out here, but you're not, are you? Pay attention, pay attention. Good. Let the dog, hey, pay attention. That's your reflection. Wookie, stop being vain. Wookie, sit. Wookie, sit. Good dog. There's a good dog. Good dog. I praise him periodically. Good dog. Praise her periodically. Sorry. There's a good dog. If Wookie looks away for an instant, I try. Hey, Wookie. Good dog. I want the dog to look up at me. That forces the butt down. And if the dog breaks the stay, I very quickly give the position command, Wookie, sit. Which is the only correction that makes sense. Letting Wookie know in one word, what you're doing is not what we want, and I want you sitting again as quickly as possible. Sit. Thank you. Wookie, sit. Wookie's going to try and collapse on you. Good dog. Wookie, sit. Good dog. Sorry, trod on your paw then. I didn't mean to do that, honestly. Wookie, I know, caused a yawn. Wookie, down. Very good. So now we're going to work with the stays. We'll start off with the down stay. Wookie, down. Good dog. Stay. It's good dog. There's a good dog. Good dog. Dog. So periodically praise. There's a good dog, Wookie. Good down. That's very impressive. Yes, you look magnificent. Then I keep coming back, praising. There's a good dog. Good dog. capture that nice stay. There's a good dog. Stay there. Good dog. And I walk away. Around. Good dog. I love that eye contact. That's very nice. Come back. Play. Good dog. Not bad. Wookie, down. Wookie, down. This is not down. Down. Stay. Wookie, down. And stay. Thank you. There's a good dog. I won't go behind you to get your head so you roll over. There's a good dog. Now focus on me, not over there. Okay, profile's good in the camera too. Good dog. Very good dog. That is good. It's nice to practice this with a little mat or bed, because you can take it with you in the car to Granny's house, you know, to an outdoor restaurant, whatever you're doing, and the dog knows it's a nice place. Much easier to get dogs down in a place. Good dog. There's a very good dog. Very good. You'll notice today Wookie is working without any treats. Yep. And we tested 2 days ago. Notice you had very good position changes. So we're going to build on that quickly. I want a quick position change into position, sit down or stand, and then a good long stand. That's very good, Wookie. And you can focus the dog's attention like a snake. Moving strangely. Good dog. Yes. Up, down. Okay. Now that is the only correction that makes sense. When your dog breaks a stay, instantly give the position command. No need to shout it, no need to scream it, but down and a hand signal. Wookie, down. Wookie, this is a training session. Down. Good dog. Off. Stay. I'll tell you what. If you can let me walk over to the treat table, I'll come back with a treat. How about that? Is that a deal? Okay. There's a good dog. Good dog. Yes, we do have treats out here. I think Wookie has been so good, we can get 2. Off. 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 Take it. Now I know you don't mind sharing this treat. I said you get 2, but how about 1.5? And a little guy can get 1 too. In fact, I don't even know what you're doing here. He dropped it. Toothless wonder. All right, Wookie, come here. Sit. Good. Wookie, come here. Sit. Wookie, sit. Wookie, attention. Earth to Wookie. Sit. Wookie, sit. Sit. Ah, Wookie. Come on. Sit. Sit. Keep your attention up. There's a good dog. On me. On me. Good dog. Good dog. Shadows over your face there. There we go. Ah, look at me. Good dog. There's a good dog. So when you have a dog on a down stay, you want to scratch them on the brisket as a reward. For a sit stay, you stroke them on the top of the head, and that makes them push their head up because they want the affection. Thigmotaxis again. Good dog. Good dog. That's a good dog. Very good dog. Okay. You watch me, watch me, watch me. Good dog. See the dialogue? It's a running commentary. Whenever I think Wookie's going to break, looking at a distraction, I get the attention back again. Good dog. Good dog. Good dog. Good dog. That is very, very, very impressive. Do you think you can stay put while I get you a treat?
I'm not so sure about this. Let's try it. Wookie. Good dog. Good dog. Keep sitting. Sit, 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 stay. Good dog. That's a good dog. Not quite stable enough for it yet. Stability means treats. You understand that? So stay. Sit. Sit, sit, sit. Sit. Wookie, sit. Wookie, sit. Wookie, no. Sit. Good dog. Wookie, on your paws. Sit. Come on, sit. Good dog. Good dog. That's better. That's better. Okay. Better position for me now. I promise you'll get a treat. You just got to let me get to the table. There's a good dog. Good dog. Good dog. Good dog. Good dog. Yeah, I brought you back 3. It's good dog 1. Good dog 2. We're really pushing Wookie today, having pretty heavy distractions out here. 3. And then 2 halves. Half for you, half for you. Oops, I got half left over. Wookie, free dog. Free dog. All right, Wookie, come here. Wooks, come on. Sit. Wookie, stand. Stay. Off. Good dog. Very good dog. There's a good dog. Good dog. Very good dog. Okay, there we go. Nice loose spine. Good. Getting some nice pressure there in the butt. Really good pressure up front. That's a good dog. That's a good dog. This dog has to be as solid as a rock in a stand stay. So you've got a job to do. There's a good dog. Good dog. Stay. Stay. There's a good dog. Pay attention to me. Good dog. Good dog. Good dog. And we'll pretend we're a veterinarian just going over you. Yeah, good. Because we can't see what's under this hairy pelage of yours. There's a good dog. Good dog. Stand. Same rules. Stand. Good dog. Good dog. Good dog. Good dog. Good dog. Off. Oh, yes. Take it. Okay. Oh, trainer's error. Trainer's error. I didn't make sure the dog got the treat. It's like dropping the baton. Trainer has it. Off. Dog has it. Good. Okay, there you go. Wookie, free dog. Okay. We'll come right back over here now. Wookie, stand. Well done. There's a good dog. Okay. And we'll try one more. That's as far back as I can get, unless I climb over the chairs here. Wookie, sit. What a good dog. What a good dog. Okay. Good dog. Then we'll do a little sit stay. Again, training tables are great for sit stays because the dog doesn't move those inches, creeps an inch, then another inch, before you know it's right across the yard. And especially with position changes. So when you're proofing, we're working with duration the whole time. She's still in the sit stay. Distance, we walk away, but then we come back. If the dog gets unstable, you've got to come back and stand. I call it toe-to-toe in front of the dog and get the dog solid again. There's a good dog, Wookie. And then we do silly things. And I really like sit. So she broke, so we have to stay here. There's a good dog. Nice illustration of the correction. I was a little sharp with her, but timing was perfect. So she just forgot for a moment. Oh, am I still in a sit state? Yes, you are. Sit. It's the only correction that makes sense. It has to be delivered immediately, and it's instructive. So we know two things. What we're about to do is wrong, and here's what we have to do to get back on track. We have to sit. There's a good dog. Okay? There's a good dog. I love the fact, yes, she keeps watching me. And you know what, Wookie? You've been so good. This is the shortest lesson, eh? There we go. We did have, I admit, a little 10-minute practice in the rain yesterday. Free dog, Wookie. Come on. Free dog. Dog, Wookie. Come on. Free dog. Well, I could see the video this time, but I tried speaking to people, but they obviously didn't hear me.
Hey, Dad. If I put
hang
you
on.
in the little corner, you can.
Yeah, I still have my earphones plugged in.
If you're hidden, people can't hear you. But if I put you in a little picture-in-picture,
Oh, I thought you were
could
going to do
speak.
that. You sent me a little text saying...
I said I could. But honestly, I think that'd be confusing because you were speaking so much in the video.
Yeah.
Having you speak more
so let me
would be
just read
bad.
down the question. So Nick said, interesting, not a lot of treats. No, I mean, primarily, food lures were phased out, a year and a half ago. The food rewards, I mean, they're special rewards now. They're given after the dog's done something that is really incredibly good. And I really like Wookie's stand stay. I mean, these were coming along really nicely. The talking, as Jamie puts it, is essentially the feedback dialogue. You know, if you want to train a dog up quickly, you need very clear instructions that the dog comprehends. Sit, Rover, down. And usually the words are coded by the dog's name, like sit means, hey, I have a suggestion, but Omaha, sit, means it's a must-do command. We have to check comprehension with your basic response reliability percentages. And you've got to be up to 85 or 90 to teach a stay. Why? If the dog improvises in any way, you immediately, the only correction that makes remote sense is Rover, sit. Which that one word sit communicates three pieces of information. One, what you're about to do is wrong, or what you're doing is wrong. Two, you should be doing this. And three, the degree of danger of non-compliance. So that's where I'd use volume. I would scream sit if it missed a command because there's, say, imminent danger. But of course, first I reverse the meaning of tone and volume, so the dog knows shouting doesn't mean I'm angry with him. It just means urgency is required, and you will get much better treats if I shout at you. So yeah, there's loads of food out there. It's on the table, but of course that's great in stays because now I have to walk over to get it, or the dog has to follow me over at heel to get it. So the only instruction that makes sense, a lot of you probably picked up, I'm saying when the dog, I was going to walk to get treats and the dog was a bit wobbly and I said, oh, I'll come back. And then before I left, I said, now sit, you're in a sit. People, I mean, trainers go, oh God, he repeated the command. I'm just reminding the dog, you are in a sit stay, because to me, the word sit means immediately put your butt down and remain there. So occasionally dogs forget, especially if they look away and see something else. Oh, I was in a stay. I forgot. Sorry. So if I'm about to do something or someone's approaching, I would say, now you're sitting, remember? Sit. Good sit, stay. Good sit, stay. So if we change our notions of feedback, that from the laboratory, it was a food pellet or a shock. From traditional obedience, it was a leash correction. and the briefest of praise you've ever seen. Now it could be a click and a food treat. If you change it from these sort of very stark, short, like moment in time, good dog, or here's a treat, to I want to give the dog a running commentary on how it's doing, not just whether you're getting it right or wrong, but how well are you doing? So my feedback is not just binary, it's also analog. And it's instructive because I'm using words. Writing this new book, I've realized this is what's missing in dog training, words. Why would we ever not teach dogs ESL before trying to get them to do anything? They've got to at least understand our instruction. Now, the stress police out there probably noticed the 3 yawns fairly early on. The dog yawned. I actually timed them. The dog yawned 3 times for 9 seconds out of a video that was 13 minutes and 21 seconds or 801 seconds long. So he yawned for less than 0.01% of the time. Was he stressed? I would say, yeah, because no one's ever done this with him before. He's used to, I sat, I got a treat. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I lay down, got a treat. Oh, high five, roll over, treat, treat. I want the dog to be calm and focused because of what he has to do when placed with a handler who is not a dog trainer. This dog has to be so ready trained. And because she's so young, the dog can't mess her about because she would probably freak out at that. And that's not very good for self-esteem when you're a very young teenager. So, I really want to make sure the dog is absolutely solid and its utility function is a stand stay as a support. It's a mobility dog. So, was this stressful? I would say, yeah. In these 3 days, one was 2 days ago, and then 10 minutes it rained, we gave up, then this session. And then the last bit was the 3rd day when it was windy. So most of what you saw was a single session that was an hour long. Well, the dog's never done anything like this before, but when placed, it will be doing it real time every day. His day will be in 1 hour segments, attending school for 8 hours in the day. And so he has to know when he's on duty, when he can, that he should be lying down, but he can turn over, relax, or just yip, but he certainly can't get up and bark. But when he's clearly off duty, at other times when he's on absolute duty between class. So, it was a little stressful for him, but you know what? It was stressful for me. Watching the video, knowing all of you are watching, was really stressful for me. Thinking, I bet someone's going to say, but your dog yawned. And then they pay attention to nothing else that you did. And training is stressful. And when I see the times when the dog gets stressed, they were with the intense attention I was giving him at the beginning. But then when did the dog lose concentration? Did anyone pick it up? When I was petting him, if I went up and pet him quickly, he would forget and move and break. If I pet him slowly, he would keep in the stay. And then when I dropped the food, stupid, but I'm sorry, this dog should know food refusal. Every kid at school will be dropping McDonald's wrappers everywhere, and the dog can't go off duty just because someone dropped a miserable, unhealthy hamburger on the floor. The one thing I hope you did notice was what's called, I forgot the name for it now. What is it? Action reaction with muscles.
Positive thigmotaxis.
Thigmotaxis. Thank you, Jamie. So if you want a dog to rigidly support himself in a sit stay, you stroke him firmly on the top of the head, trying to push the head down. This causes the contraction of the opposite muscles, the ones that give, to contract them so the dog holds its head high. Conversely, for a downstay, you scratch on the chest. Now this is different. The dog will sink in to the scratching, sink into the pressure. He's not resisting the pressure. He's going, oh, yeah, I will collapse into the pressure. For the stand stay, what we do is we push on the withers with this rhythmic pressure. Push, push, push. It makes that dog stand so hard at the front, but then we slowly go down the spine, and you'll see the spine move. It's a very healthy thing to do for dogs till we get to the rump. Then we increase the pressure on the rump, and so nobody could push this dog down. I remember doing a demo with Omaha. This was a higher level psych class, and I had him on stage, about 100 students. I said, right, who can get this dog to sit? And a big old guy in the front, probably on the football team, said, oh, I could do it. So he comes up behind Omaha, pushes on his butt. Well, that's the signal for Omaha to go rigid. So he's pushing and pushing. And I said to the guy, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And when I did that, Omaha goes, whoa, and he takes his hand off. I said, he's only playing, shush, whoa, just so he know this was on cue. But then a young lady comes up, says, I'll do it. And damn, she had a treat in her hand, just put it above his head, and he broke. He shouldn't have done, but you see, this wasn't me doing it. This was someone else on stage, different than what have you. But at least it illustrated that's the right way to do it, using brain instead of brawn, as Jamie used to say. So there's a lot in the video, but the reason why I like to keep them unedited, I love it when things go wrong, because then you can see what I did. And I had trouble one time when I said sit and he laid down, and then he's going to roll over. Now, why is he doing that? Is he stressed? Is he tired? No, for whatever reason, he wanted to test me. Dogs, like children, all the time you live with them, they're testing you. Whether they have control of the situation, you do. And with most people, if he lies down on a sit stay, they just take it. If he rolls over, they give up and probably scratch his tummy. And so the dog has gone, oh, good, I can stop this at any time. But then I told him, no, you can't. And by using my voice only, hands off. And I want you to think how difficult that is. You're being filmed. You said sit, and the dog doesn't sit, but he lies down. Then he rolls over and does this with his paws, having a good old time with my voice, using the only command that ever makes sense when you're training stays. You give the position command over. Okay? Remember the old things? They would tell you, your dog broke the stay, go over, grab him by the collar, and you drag him back to where he was. No, it wasn't your fault that he's, dog's fault. He's now 25 yards from where you put him in a sit stay. It's your fault because you let him do that. You'll notice I don't. If the dog moves his eyeballs, I say sit. If the dog changes position, I say sit immediately. So how can he get 25 yards away? I'm on his case. I'm not letting him move from that spot, because it actually means immediately sit and remain there in that position on that spot. So I think showing the unedited videos, you really get a feel for the dialogue. And sometimes I'm being inane and saying silly things to the dog, which is my version of a food treat. I mean, praise. Hello, I love Wookie. I love Wookie to this day. And he's now been in service for, I think, 4 years. And he is one hell of a reliable dog now. But he's also funny. And we'll let him be funny when he's at a brewery. He actually, because of his job, he has to visit a lot of breweries. I won't tell you what he does exactly. But a lot of times.
So I think we saw it to a large extent in the video, but I think it may be nice for you to kind of break it down for people in terms of the how-to of how, when you're trying to teach stays, where do you start? And then how do you build that reliability you were talking about, that, 90% or 85%?
Well, I think the secret is we start with, you've got to have a solid temperament, because you don't want to stay being broken by something the dog's scared of. Then you make sure the dog understands the position change command, sit down and stand. And you've got to test proficiency. And if you don't know how to test proficiency, for God's sake, learn how to create response reliability percentages, because it is alarming. It will shock you how low a lot of your dog's reliability. And then when they don't do what you ask, you get angry. Well, that's not it's unfair. Or you get frustrated. So you've got to have the dog understand the position command, because it's also your correction. The single word that conveys those 3 bits of information. Stop what you're doing, do this instead, get back on track. See, this is where the binary should never have been reward versus punishment. Punishment never belonged in these scientific studies at all. Why? Because even if effective,
Let's stay
this is
back on
totally
our
on tangent. Even if effective, it doesn't get the dog back on track. And this is why people can't teach stays, because their correction is a jerk. Well, how the hell? Let's say I'm standing next to you now and I keep punching you on the shoulder. Punch, punch again. How the hell do you know what you're doing wrong or what I want you to do? That's why the verbal correction is the only way. And the binary should, from the beginning, have been verbal instruction, verbal correction. You know, that's not off track, Jamie. Thank you for stopping me, thinking I'm going into orbit, but I'm not. It's vital, because the sit stay is horrendous for dogs, because of the question you asked me the other day. So how do these dogs learn it eventually? And I say, you know what, Jamie, I honestly think that dogs are scared to move out of terror. They don't really know that the owner wants them to sit stay or down stay. What they've learned.
So to be clear for people who are listening, we were talking about this before, and you were describing how people used to do it
Yeah.
with lots of punishments. And I said, would these dogs learn it eventually? Surely the trainers must have had some success using these terrible aversive methods.
And let me correct you. I wouldn't say terrible aversive. I say aversive punishment. But the first word you said was with lots of punishments. No, that's why the dogs couldn't learn. The aversive stimulus was not a punishment, when a punishment's defined by its effect on behavior. Okay. And so instead, I say they got leash correction, so I don't cause people to bristle up their neck or something. So I would never say terrible aversive, although, yeah, I don't want to hurt my dog. He's my buddy, but it changes the dialogue and makes people angry. And so they're less receptive to what you have to offer, which I hope is a better way. It's certainly a quicker way. I mean, that was Wookie's second session with me. And I was proud of Wookie. I thought, damn, your stand saves are good. His settle downs were okay, but I wasn't teaching him a downstay because he wasn't in the position. Now, the secret is, once you've got your position stays, is you thin out the number of wards you give by quantifying your response reward ratio, or to put it that in English, how many responses can you get for each treat, right? So, but most people, you see it even to this day, they've been in class for 6 weeks, they're still going sit, treat, down, treat, high five, treat. You'll get nowhere with that. You're turning the treat into a bribe, and one of these days the dog will blow it off and you don't know what to do, because you didn't see Ian correct Wookie when Wookie blows Ian off. I just stick with the basic, easiest principles of simple science training, and I'm going to tell him to sit calmly and not give up until he does. The same way my dad and my grandfather dealt with me. Neither of them ever raised their voice with me in their lives. And I don't think I've done it with Jamie, apart from screaming and banging my head against the wall when I say people aren't getting it. Well, perhaps I'm not explaining it right. That frustrates me to the point of raising my voice. But I've never actually shouted at Jamie, I would say. So you want more for less. First in number of position changes, then the length in the position. So now your number one training exercise that you do 20 times a day is randomizing position changes with random length weights, a little stay delay in each position. Sit, down for 2 seconds, sit for 3 seconds, down, stand for a second, down for 5 seconds, sit, and now this stand say was incredible, so we give a treat. So you've got to keep track of how many treats. Well, you know exactly how many treats I gave. Well, I rewarded the dog how many times? because it was so infrequent, pretty easy to count, right? As Nick said, there's not many treats. Actually, there was a shitload of treats. Sorry, a load of treats on the table. And each time I rewarded him, I gave him 3.5. And I don't know how I did that. So I had 3 treats, right? And I broke one in half for the little dog who was interrupting the training, but I still gave Wookie 3 treats. How did I do that? I gave him a treat, half a treat, and then I had half left. As I was watching the video, I thought, that's mathematically impossible what you did with those 3 treats. That's like 5 loaves and 2 fishes, or however many the number was. So this stay delay now is maximized to infinity, you know? And what you're training the dog is impulse control, patience. He's holding it. He knows the treat time will come, and when it comes, it could be 3.5 treats, or it could be a piece of lamb, or it could be the end of my sandwich. But the thing that sent training sliding down the toilet bowl in the last few years is too many treats for too few behaviors, or too teeny stays. So as you see here, count the number of rewards given, and that's what I do. Everything is counted. The whole point of videoing this is so I could go through it and said there were only 3 yawns. You know, I made 5 training mistakes, terrible ones. You know, how can you drop a food treat in front of a dog without proving him first to food refusal on a stationary treat on the ground or a drop treat? You know, so tremendous training error, but we deal with it and correct it. So you then working with the dog in a sit stay, continually building duration as you go, going back toe to toe periodically to praise to his face and pet him gently, and then leave him again. So now we're adding on distance to the durations, but you keep coming back to the dog. Otherwise, what you'll do is stay away from the dog and only go back to him when he breaks the sit stay. So, so what you're doing is unintentionally rewarding when the dog breaks. Okay, so I go back to him lots. When he breaks, I correct him from a distance. That's why we teach the distance commands too. Because let's look on this. Say your dog moves out of heel position to 5 yards in front of you. What's your correction? You're all going to say heel again. Yeah, but he won't understand it because he's 5 yards away. Unless you've taught him to heel, find heel position from any position, from any distance. That heel means from where you are, which is not where you're meant to be, come back to heel position. You get it? Same with a simple stay. Unless you've taught commands from 35 feet, you shouldn't move away to 35 feet on a sit stay, which every single obedience competitor did in Novice 1. And you've got no correction. You can't even give a quick hand signal. If he's looking at you, you know, you're setting dogs up for failure and yourself for frustration. Then we bring in the distractions. And I just did a few. You couldn't see the snake movement, which is kind of cool, which actually caused Wookie to break afterwards because that was weird movement. But you probably saw the silly horse gallop and stuff. So then we bring in the distractions, which is all the other dogs in the house come out. We bring a few people around, have a party. Wookie's got to sit stay through the whole thing. And the reason for this is in real life, he'll have to settle down comfortably through the same thing. So if I've done 20 minutes in a sit stay, that 1 hour settle down will come easily. But with Wookie, I actually did 20 minutes in a stand stay. So I would say this dog is primed to do a 2 hour settle down quite easily.
So Wookie seemed, you know, when the other dog showed up, Wookie seemed a little distracted, but you were able to kind of get Wookie back on track. Is there ever a situation where you'd kind of change the scenario and scale back the level of distraction? If Wookie was really engaged with that other dog and wasn't interested in you, what you had to say at all, what would be your next step?
Well, in real time, I wouldn't give up. It actually happened with Duke yesterday. I don't know what it was, his birthday. It's like he lost his brain for a day. And he was pushing me to the limit. Everything we do in a retrieve, he wouldn't do. He would drop the ball 10 yards from me. And Matt, he is pressing my buttons. And then, I eventually gone to bring it back and sit and give it to my hand again. Then on the next recall, coming back, he sees the dog in the yard next door and runs over to the fence going, woo, 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 woo. And I thought, you know what, Duke? You've met your match. I know that you've pushed other trainers to distraction with this behavior and you've made them give up. Well, I'm not giving up. And with my voice, I got him to shush and sit. And then I heeled him back to where we started. And then I found the next couple of recalls were much easier. I didn't even raise my voice with him. And I consciously had to bite my tongue, I must admit, because he was really unintentionally pressing my buttons. But that's real time. But I'm never going to train him in that situation again without rolling back to step one and testing him around other dogs. Yeah, but all the other dogs are crated, or Wookie is crated. So one of the two can't move until we build it up to, because I hadn't proved him in the class. And so, or I may say, right, we'll do real-time training in the class. Right in the middle of this off-leash class, I'll work on Wookie's sit. But this is now a training session. So I'm going to be delivering many more pieces of information a minute. So I was like tallying my feedback rate to Wookie, and it was actually pretty low. It was a little over 20 pieces of information a minute. And way back when we started to quantify this stuff, we realized that 30 pieces a minute is minimum for training, And so that's every piece of information every 2 seconds. The average owner, by the way, gives less than one piece of information a minute, and it's usually totally wrong, the feedback. It's not just totally wrong, it's 180 degrees out of phase. If the dog's doing something they don't want, they unintentionally reinforce it. If it's doing something that they do want, they totally ignore it. That's your average owner. So you need to deliver about 30 pieces of information, a second. It's kind of like if you're teaching a child to position herself on the field in soccer when she hasn't got the ball. You've got to keep relating where the ball is, where the action is, and where she should be. So you're giving a running, oh, I know, great, is when you ski behind someone who's skiing and you're teaching them to ski. You've got to control their knees, their toes, their hips, their arms, and you're giving all this information a running commentary. And that's how we should look on, instead of a shock or a food pellet. We should think of a running commentary, ongoing guidance, how well you're doing.
Yeah. Before we open up to questions, I do feel like you should talk a little bit about if we're talking about stage, talk a little bit about release words.
Yeah, you probably saw my very clear free dog releases to Wookie. Now, what else did you see? I released her 3 times, right? Does she know the instruction free dog? No. Once she did it. Second time I had to say it twice. The third times I had to say it 3 times with a hand signal. So here's number one, the proof that her verbal comprehension isn't quite what I thought it was. So when we did the ruthless, the quantification of, sit down, sit, stand, down, stand, repeated 5 times, yeah, she was focused. She knew that we were focused on her and we were training. But in this session, because it was longer, she began to lose focus. So part of this session was me beginning to teach her that free dog means free dog. Now, that was a trainer's error. I should have very clearly said, Wookie, free dog, and then walked away from it and not repeated it. Because then she would learn, oh, I'm off duty now. Because I clearly want her to know when she's off duty. But usually in training, I will go through different levels of attention. I would usually yo-yo between informal and formal commands. Just like I used to in Obedience with Omaha, he would be Ohm coming up to the ring. Come along, Ohm. on 6 foot away on the leash, which stewards used to hate with a Malamute, you know. And then when they say, "You ready, Dr. Dunbar?" I'd say, "Omaha, heel." Formal commands. We walk into the ring, formal command. But I would reduce him down to ohm. It's not on the rule book, you can't do this. And he would stroll on a loose leash between exercises. Now, the reason I did it was that meant I had all these opportunities to corral his attention again back to Omaha, formal commands. So this is something that a lot of people forget when they're training a dog off leash, or when walking. I tell everybody, stop every 25 yards and have a short training interlude, even as short as sit, watch, stay. And when your dog's off leash, stop the play session every minute. Well, people don't want to do that. They say, "Oh no, he's having a good time. I don't want him to keep stopping." So they don't do it. And then the control over the dog disappears. But think on this. Every time when your dog's playing, you say sit from a distance and you interrupt play, gives you another opportunity to say to the dog, "Go play," to reinforce the quick distance, distracted sit, stay, and watch. Every time you stop when walking enables you to say, "Let's go," even if you let's go into an informal phase. So I like to go between formal and informal, but I clearly want the dog to know when he's off duty, because that is from a formal command to like total release. So it's very clear. And if you're just doing a single stay, you'll never have a rock solid stay unless you release the dog from it. So how do you release the dog from a stay with any other instruction, the worst one of all being "come here," because they're antithetical. You stay means don't move, come here, because that's what they make you do in obedience. Sit, stay, walk away 35 feet, turn and face, and call your dog. Rover, come. So what now does sit, stay mean to the dog? It means ready, steady, go, right? Because everyone practices that sequence. Sit, stay, come. Sit, stay, come. It's insanity. So release your dog to a down stay, or to heel, or to stand stay, but not straight from a sit stay into the wild. So a clear release command must be given after every time you say the word sit, which in my doggy dictionary means sit and stay and watch. Immediately sit and stay and watch. So that's the definition of the word sit when preceded by its formal name. It just makes life easier for the dog because he knows he can ignore the rest. Like, "Hey, Rove, come here, sit. Will you sit? Come on, sit." No, these are suggestions, and I don't expect the dog to obey them. So with stays, the release is vitally important. I mean, Kelly makes this point all through her videos. And, part of that reason is because she competes with the dog. And she knows what the dog breaking one stay means. 0, duck egg, waste of a trip to the middle of nowhere and staying in a Days Inn for 3 days. You just got 0 for the day.
Scott says, what if they don't sit? Decrease your distance and ask again?
What if they don't sit in what scenario?
When you're working on a distance sit, I believe.
Yeah. Well, first you teach a distance sit before, you can teach it in the dog park if you like. It's very easy. What you say is, unfortunately, I'll have to talk about like cascading comprehension, but because here's what I'm doing. People say, don't repeat the command. I'm not. So here we go. How to teach the dog a distance sit in a dog park. First trial. You clearly say to your dog, "Rover, sit." And then you walk towards your dog, repeating the command, "Rover, sit." When you get close, I'd add in the hand signal, "Rover, sit," hand signal. I am never repeating the command. Does that make sense to anyone listening? Because the dog interprets every command I give differently because of the decreasing proximity. And so in terms of comprehension, I don't know where my finger should go. 100 yards away, they have 0 comprehension. As you walk towards it, they gradually think, I think he's talking to me. He's repeating a word. I don't know what it is. I think it's that word sit. Can't be. He's never done sit a long way away. Eventually, you'll get to a distance where the dog goes, and it's usually living room distance. Oh, he wants me to sit. Okay. So now your dog sits when you say 3 yards away. That means the next time through, when you're 5 yards away, he doesn't understand it fully enough to do it. But 3 yards away, he does. Therefore, now he will begin to understand it 5 yards away. So if you do this, work with your dog at home, and I want you to ask him to sit when he's right toe-to-toe in front of you, when he's 1 yard away from you, 3 yards away, 5, 10, 15. When you go back to the distance, you'll eventually zero out when you calculate your response reliability percentages. And they will drop like this. Toe to toe, let's say you got a good dog, 90%. 1 yard away, 80%. 3 yards away, tremendous drop, 60%. Down to 30. And if you just went outside, that would drop to 20, eventually to 0. But as you approach, you say, you're always saying a much better comprehended command before the next. So if you like, the first command is the lure to the second command, but the second command is the lure to the third, and so on and so on. But you probably won't get a response the first time in a dog park till you're right up close. Tell your dog, go play, do it again, do it again, do it again. By about the 20th repetition, you'll find, wow, my dog is now starting to look at me right after the first command. And now he's sitting when I'm halfway there. We call that improvement in one trial. And you do it until now your dog sits to any first command given at a distance and then responds. So the distance is increasing astronomically, but the number of commands required, because you calculate those because your response reliability percentage decreases until it asymptotes at 1. You may get occasional glitches with the trained dog. It goes like 1 response, 1 response, 1, 1, 1, 5, 1, 1, 1, like you saw with Wookie. By and large, if I said sit, she sat. But from her back with a pause in the air, it took 5 commands to right her and get her back in a sit again. But you don't give up. Now, let's talk best possible scenario to teach distance commands. Do it from 1 yard away. You say, Rover, sit. Dog doesn't respond, so you step in quickly and say sit. The dog responds. So now you get a 1 yard distance, no response, proximal command, response. Once the dog gets that, now he understands the word sit from a yard away. So now go 2 yards away. So you can step into the 1 yard remark. You've got it? So you're always saying unknown command, okay? You're always saying the known command prior to the unknown command. So the known command becomes a lure. Got it? So it's, you only prove this to yourself by trying it out, but the criticism has always been, you're repeating their command. And you're nagging. No, definition of nagging is you repeat the command, but the dog never complies. What I'm doing is calmly, consistently, persistently repeating the command until the dog does reply. And then, as those of you know, we talk about this before, once I've got the dog's attention after it sits, I step back and say, Rover, come. Rover, sit. Because this dog will not hear me say go play until he sits following a single command. So yes, if they don't sit when you ask, decrease your distance rapidly as if your dog is off leash on the street. Don't run, but walk up at a brisk pace saying, Rover, sit, Rover, sit. And that is for dogs, yeah, it's a little spooky. You may get some sit and yawn, but I tell you what, a dog that sits at the distance, and he's learned that because you've taught him, is better than a dog that doesn't yawn because you've never done it, but gets run over by a car. So.
All right. So we'll officially open for questions for 15 minutes or so. If you thought Ian did a good job in this webinar, feel free to give us a thumbs up. We certainly appreciate positive feedback.
Okay, Scott we haven't quite, no, it's Sheila. So if you say to a dog, Rover, sit, the way I define sit is immediately put your butt on the ground, keep it there, watch me until the next command. What sort of commands could I give? Well, free dog. But now your dog is going from formal obedience to free dog in one step. And so whatever your emergency command is, emergency sit or emergency down, I probably wouldn't do that. Okay. Instead, I would have to dog go from formal command to another formal command. So out of Rover sit, Rover stand, free dog. You want to have one command which is sacrosanct, and I always choose Rover sit. Okay, until the dog's really well trained and he knows it, I won't release him from Rover sit to go play. When he is well trained, I do it all the time, because then I get really quick sits when he's off leash and distracting. So you can either release a dog to another formal obedience command, come. It's a frequent one, but I was saying why not to do it, because you're putting the dog in motion. So I like the dog to move the dog out of my special position command into another position command. And why not do this? So you say, Rover, sit. Well, he absolutely knows I must never move now. And then you say, Rover, down. Rover, bang. So he does a Wookie and he's on his back doing this. Then you say, good dog, free dog. And we used to have these, I used to call them unlocking combinations. If you watch someone release their dog in like an obedience class, you used to go like this. So to get the dog in a down, we Rover down, down, walk away. And you walk away like you got a carrot stuck up your ass and turn and face, and then come back, standing there, and release your dog. And everyone goes, free dog, thereby letting the dog know I'm as happy as you that your long stay is over. You reward the dog after he releases the stay? Are you insane? I would squeak and praise the dog during the last 10 seconds of the stay. And then very casually, my unlocking combination was Omaha, heel. I took one step backwards. So you had to heel backwards, sit, stay. Then I would say Omaha down, Omaha bang. And he would roll over on his back, which he liked because it was hot. Then I would say, come along, Om, and walk him off. And I would really preserve the beginning of that downstay and the end of it. Release commands are absolutely crucial. And it's like a combination lock. You will never hear me say down, free dog, especially giggling, okay? Because you're going from absolute security, the best command you've got, to free dog. So I would do the step back, heel. A lot of obedience handlers would do one step forward, sit, and then release the dog. So they learned that bit. So I thought, I'm going to do step back, heel, then no one else sees what I'm doing. They're all stepping forward. Step back, heel back, sit, down, bang, which is supine down and wiggly. And then it's not such a huge transition when we say free dog or Om, come along, which is a suggestion. When you think about this stuff, I just find it fascinating. What does a single word mean to a dog? And I remember years ago in the 80s, I had a defunct business and I had these leftover San Francisco date books, leather bound. Well, they're like this. To this day, all my scheduling is done on this. Maker's been bought out now by Charing Cross, I think, but it was called Leathersmiths. But they didn't sell because we didn't get the shipment till November, so we couldn't get them in Macy's, So I was left with 10,000 of them. So every person in puppy class would get one, and lots of blank pages. I said, write down every word you're going to use to your dog. Now define it. And I would never meet anyone who could define the word sit as I defined it. But we have to teach that definition to the dog bit by bit. Put your butt on the ground. then immediately put your butt on the ground. Then immediately put your butt on the ground and keep it there. No matter how far away I'm from you, no matter what's going on, and so on and so on. That single word sit means so much. The definition is probably about 50 words long, all taught piece by piece. I love your webinars.
So
Thank you, Darlene. I can get my...
Melissa says her dog sits on command, on voice command, but how does she keep her in a sit when the dog decides
Yeah,
she's
you
done
say
and
sit
just walks
immediately.
off?
And if you haven't got control yet, have the dog on leash tied to a tree so it can get no more than, say, 6 feet from you. But the whole notion of an emergency command is, if you want ultimate reliability, is the notion that you're in control, you will not give up. If you say formal command, sit, the dog will do it. If it breaks, you'll repeat it. You won't give up until it's sitting again. And then if you want to give up on me, release the dog immediately, but I wouldn't. I would then repeat it. Now you have to sit another time. Okay, so you sit on one command and you release on one command. So if you miss a release command, when I'm really getting on the dog's case, if I said Rover free dog and it didn't release, I would say, okay, Rover sit. We would go back to sit again. So you missed your time window. Sorry, and be smiling. So I used to do these exercises on TV that you might find them in Dunbar Redux. It's in my old TV program. So I would pick an impossible task for an owner to do. And I would force them to do it with their brain. There's no way I'm going to let them have this dog on leash and jerk it. There's no way they're going to put their hands on the dog. We're going to work in a safe area. So for filming, we had massive sheep netted areas. And so one owner was a border collie who would just run away from her. Very highly trained one when he's on. This dog would heel and sit and heel and sit and sit and stay and everything, and then boom, he's gone. And so I said, right, what we're going to do is you're going to work your dog to distraction until he breaks, and you're going to stop him. And this one, she couldn't break. I actually had to help her. I went after this dog, man. This dog went through a hedge. I went through the hedge after the dog. But no, the dog was actually sitting in the hedge. I came after, and this one, because this is so bad, I shout. So I'll teach the dog when I shout, no harm will come to you. I'm not angry. But volume is to really accentuate the urgency of this. So I've done the same old routine, increasing the volume gradually and giving more and more treats the louder you get each time. But the little border collie, so then she had to call it back. Okay, so she did it again. The dog broke. She sat that dog in its tracks and called it back. Then I put my hand on her head. This is on TV, and said, you have the force in dog training. Because as soon as you believe in yourself, all of a sudden now you can do the impossible. The other one I remember now was a big old dog, and it was a little child who had to waggle a hot dog in front of the dog and keep the dog's attention. That's what I told the child. And I sat the owner in a chair in the middle of the field and said, right, you got to use your voice to get the dog back here. I want you to imagine you're in the park and the child's mother is screaming, it's a biting dog, it's bitten my child, it's bitten my child. You got to get your dog back sitting by your side. And they panic and they go quiet. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, you can do it. You got to call that. And eventually something clicks in their brain, and it's not the shout. Sometimes they're even quieter, and they do sometimes sound really evil and threatening. Like, Rover, would you come here? And the dog goes, ooh, that's different. And they do what I call decline the gambit. You notice, rather than the dog doing this, they go, you got their attention. I say, call him, you've got him. That's it, that's all you needed to do. Break this, ooh, sniffing the hot dog to that. Now say, come, pop, and I'm helping her out and banging on her head. Come, pop, and the dog comes in and sits. I say, take his collar. Now give him 6 treats in a row. then I hand on their head. You got the force in dog training. So that's what it's about. Calmly, insistently, persistently, just keeping up with it. Because the first time you give up, if you've given a command and repeated it, the dog knows I don't have to do it. And that's the whole point of, you see, bringing in the formal command, because the dog's blowing you off a lot of the times now. So I say, pick a new name. And all you need to do when you use his new name or her new name is you become a different person. You will become 100% consistent, follow up religiously for a very short time until you release the dog from his formal persona to an informal one. I know, we'll be finished in a moment, Sam. It's okay. Good girl. Very good.
Is Sam due for a trip to the
Yes,
potty?
she's sitting up, but this time of day, she'll last for another 5 minutes. So it'll be good. I timed it perfectly. I emptied her out.
Oh, good. Well, I think we're about ready to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So
when's the next live? Well, the next live is next week, Scott, and this is a big one because we're just still seeing puppy problems, and I don't think it's any longer from COVID. It's people have a new mindset now that dog's at home. He's a suburban dog. We don't walk him much, but you don't need to do that to socialize your dog. What you do is at home, and no veterinarians, no breeders, no pet store owners, no trainers in their community are telling new owners this. So I'm starting again. This is the 4th time I've started this program in my life. Jamie, Kelly, and I, and Sirius, we have a brand new class on Sirius, and I think this could do it. It's a 1-session puppy clinic. So it's a 1-session class at any time in your puppy's life. When you get your puppy, before you get your puppy, take this class. What comes with it is, it's just $29 for 1 session. And what comes in it is all the information you need to know to do now. Because if you wait 4 weeks, it's too damn late. And your dog's going to get scared of people when he's 6 months old. It's sore as cheek, chalk is cheese, and cheese is chalk. Sore as chalk is cheese. What the hell does that expression mean? You know, whatever. And so, yeah, so it's about COVID, parvo, safe socialization. Must be done prior to 12 weeks of age. This, if you ask me, what is the single biggest variable that influences the dog's temperament and behavior and quality of life, without a doubt, it's whether this dog was socialized to people or not between 8 and 12 weeks. Because we know it probably hasn't got much in the breeding kennel. Seen 3 women, perhaps, you know. So it's all got to happen between 8 and 12 weeks. And this is what changes the dog's life forever, to be brilliant in the vet clinic, brilliant with spooky people on the street, and so on. So that's the next live one. Thank you for asking that. Who asked that? Scott, he's disappeared now. Well, anyway, thanks for asking the question, because that's a good plug for next week. So tell everyone you know about this. It's really, really important. And we've just launched this new class, was it a week ago, Jamie? Yep. We decided puppy kindergarten's not the way to do it. Insanity to have a week-by-week class during a developmental period. I mean, it's like, it's a wonderful idea, topic by topic, but they need everything at once. And because of the enormous backup of information we have at Dunbar Academy, we have videos for everything, and they will get access to it the first day the puppy comes home. And they probably first will go to the behavior problem compendium or just look at the house training stuff. But the most important piece of information is delivered up front in bold red letters. You must host puppy parties at home. Safely socialize your pup to people. People only coming. Outdoor shoes outside. Totally safe. Give the puppy a life. I'm sorry, Jamie, I went into standing on the soapbox mode, but I won't say another word now. I will say thank you, everybody. It's lovely to teach to people. It's lovely to, see so many people here. Gave it 9. Yep. Yep.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Yeah, we'll be back same time next week, Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, live here on Facebook and YouTube. And the recording of this webinar will be available on Facebook and YouTube and will be added to the Top Dog Academy, where all of our webinars, seminars, workshops, videos, downloads, podcasts, ebooks, where it's all available. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye, Jamie. I feel like I didn't let you talk enough here this time. I know. Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed listening.